Welcome back, guys. So the perception is finally changing here on multifamily rentals in Southwest Florida. They are coming out with reports saying that the tide has turned on these units. As you guys know, they are building so many of them. And there's a slate of them set to hit the market. A bunch of developers are actually pumping the brakes now around the country because they're starting to realize they overbuilt these things and no one's going to pay what they want for them. So we're starting to see a pullback on that. But specifically here in Southwest Florida, we are at vacancy rates that we have not seen in over a decade. Now, local data coming out of ERES states that the tides are turning for multifamily on the Gulf Coast. So I want to touch on this report very briefly, and then we're going to go on to a lot of other stuff affecting this too. Q4 showed promise for the multifamily sector on the Gulf Coast of Florida, but the outlook is beginning to shift, as we've mentioned here, guys. While new residents proceed to pour into the market, the substantial delivery of new construction in recent months has created a sizable imbalance between supply and demand. And this is what I've been saying, guys. It's supply and demand. They want to tell you when there's nothing to rent that, oh, the rent goes up because of supply and demand. Well, when there's too much to rent, the rent goes down because of supply and demand. It's the same exact factor. They just don't seem to think it goes the other way ever. They go on to say the pipeline for new multifamily construction continues to swell with 16,669 additional units under construction in the Sarasota, Punta Gorda, Fort Myers, and Naples markets alone. That is 3 times the national average build rate currently for multifamily construction. They continue that the vacancy rates across the region are the highest they've been in nearly a decade, coming in at an average of 12.45%. That is sky high, guys, for vacancy rates. That's nuts. 7% is considered pretty high. 12.4% in this area of South Florida. And that number is only expected to rise as more units become available. This is what I've been saying for 6 months is coming down the pipe. And it's starting here in Southwest Florida. This is going to spread to the rest of the state because they didn't just only build here. They're building all over the state, all over the country. This is probably coming to an area near you very soon. They also add that on a positive note for residents, asking rental rates have continued to fall consistently since Q1 of 2023 in response to the lessened demand. This is the prime example of overbuilding where it does not support it, guys. It just doesn't work. And what do you think is going to happen to rents going forward now that we have one of the highest vacancy rates in the country I think I've ever seen since I've been in the business? And simultaneously, one of the highest multifamily construction rates in the country as well. Now, they predict that this slowdown is going to continue into 2024. I believe that's true. I think it's going to go much further than that, just because I said renting has such a stink on it, and people do not want to give these corporate landlords money anymore after everything they pulled in the past 2 years. I don't blame them. And they do state, while markets may be experiencing a temporary slowdown, Florida remains the fastest growing state at 1.9% in 2022 and has not experienced a decline in population growth since 1946. And that's the tagline everybody always says. Oh, people always moving to Florida. There's more people moving in than there are moving out. Well, yeah, there are, but there's also 275,000 people that moved out in 2022 for various reasons. So we only had 319,000 come in, but we lost 275,000. When you look at it that way, that's not a very big net gain. Guys, that is 44,000 people gained. So if we take a look at that and assume every one of those 44,000 people rents, we know that there's 16,669 multifamily units in Southwest Florida alone being constructed. So let's just times 16,000 by 4. That is 66,676 available apartments just in Southwest Florida for a net migration of 44,000 people. It's like I say, guys, people lie. Numbers don't. Those numbers don't look good. And that's just Southwest Florida. That's not counting everywhere else they're building in the state. So, this is where I get pushback on people that, oh, nobody's leaving. Everyone's trying to get into Florida. No, they're not. There's a lot of people leaving. A lot of people on fixed incomes have now found out Florida is no longer affordable for them. You guys know why if you've seen my inflation videos, my insurance videos. Everything here costs more money, but now your property taxes are doubling, your hurricane deductibles are doubling, your total insurance may be doubling or tripling in some cases. If you've got a second home here or you've got an investment property here, hold on to your hat, because if you're not an owner occupant, the insurance can go crazy on you. And where are they heading? Mostly in my area, people are eyeballing Georgia. I think it's a waste of time because everyone is heading there, so the prices are still skyrocketing. But it states here, Floridians ditched Florida for states like Georgia, Tennessee, and South Carolina. That is absolutely true. And I would add North Carolina on there. If you guys know, I had my buddy Anthony from North Carolina on. He's recently purchased up there, and it's a madhouse. It's bidding wars. I've had people reaching in that are trying to purchase on the coast of Carolina, and it's madness. It's multiple offers on everything because it's still relatively affordable there, and you get a decent climate. So that's where most of the Floridians are heading, are those 4 areas. And the situation is so dire, guys, here and across the whole country, that nearly 2/3 of potential homebuyers would welcome a recession if it meant lower mortgage rates. Yahoo is quick to jump in here and tell them what they're missing in that equation. I think the first thing, my personal opinion, is it's not mortgage rates, guys, it's home prices. Mortgage rates going down is not going to help home prices. We need home prices to go down if you want to get in the housing game. It's not going to be, we go back to 5%, everyone's going to get off the sidelines and start buying like crazy. That's just going to bring prices up. The National Association of Realtors, everybody's favorite organization lately, is coming out and saying that there's just simply not enough homes for sale, guys. It's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, there's not going to be enough available inventory. Nationwide, that may be true, but it's very area specific. Come to Charlotte County, we've got 6 months of houses to buy. That's a buyer's market. Like I've said before, some zip codes have 7, 8, 9, 10 months of inventory, guys. 10 months. That means it would take us 10 months to sell all our houses if we didn't list anymore. That's crazy. Those are 2008 numbers. That's nuts. But people are still buying, and so there's no shortage of people buying out there. But, the supply narrative really depends on markets. Other markets like coastal North Carolina, you have like a month worth of inventory. You've got to look at each individual scenario. Don't take this blindly and just rush out and, purchase. Take a look around and see what's on the ground. Get into the data, guys. Get into the data. Jumping back onto the multifamily, I want to touch on RealPage's multifamily trends. They did a survey of about 2,000 renters. They found actually that 2/3 of them, 66% of multifamily renters, are satisfied with the current housing situation, preferring the financial freedom afforded by being able to rent more cheaply than buy in areas where they want to live, as well as the flexibility for remote work and trying out new locations. Now, you can see the generational shift here. Obviously, Gen Z, 51% in particular, felt that renting was a better option than buying. So it's very strange here specifically. I mean, I get in Tampa, I get in major cities, but here in the Southwest Florida region, to build all these young lifestyle living centers, these luxury apartments, when most of our population is old. Charlotte County, if you guys didn't know, is the oldest county in the country. Not when it was founded, that's by age demographics. We are the oldest county in the nation, which is why I think it's hilarious that they're building so many multifamily apartments here in Southwest Florida, and they're pitching them like it's a millennial Gen Z party. Like, come on down to the fire pit, bring your Labradoodle. We're all going to hang out and have margaritas all day. No, we're not. There's no young people here. And it touches on all the generational differences of the multifamily renters. So it shows that nearly 3/4, 73% of renters say they are renting in an area where they couldn't afford to buy, showing that apartments help diversify preferred neighborhoods if you can get them rented. 66% of renters are satisfied with their current overall renting situation, with younger renters showing the highest satisfaction rates. It looks like both Gen X and Gen Z prefer the flexibility and less responsibility and financial freedom of renting. They don't like paying property taxes. They don't like mowing lawns, things like that. Though some people will argue those get passed down to you, which is a great time to interject and say, landlords, your expenses have no bearing on what the market rent is. It doesn't matter what your expenses are. It doesn't matter what your maintenance or repairs or taxes or insurance are. Your expenses don't dictate the rent. The market dictates the rent. So they detail here the factors whether a renter will renew or not, and I want you to pay attention to these. The first is that renters are more likely to renew if the property managers update their unit, which usually does not happen. That does not get done unless you move out. They like to see quick quality repairs provided and flexible lease terms. Oh, and if you can offer them to sign online without having to come and talk to you, more likely apparently to renew. Obviously, issues with neighbors or property managers, they're not going to renew. Here's the big one, guys. Older renters are more likely to renew just to avoid the hassle and cost of moving, whereas younger renters would be more influenced by upgraded amenities and new technology. Now, this is some great data from RealPage Analytics here, guys. It says which markets could be most and least impacted by this apartment construction. And as we mentioned, you're going to see different results in different areas. Results may vary, guys, depending on how things are going in the area you're in. And I encourage all you guys to go check out RealPage. I've got a link in the description below. But what this chart describes is basically the previous peak of apartment construction versus the new peak, which is projected to occur in 2023, 2024. We are in the middle of it, guys. So for the top 150 metros, as compared to the previous highs that they saw for apartment supply, Huntsville, Alabama is just skyrocketing off the page. They are so above and beyond previous supply that they said they actually had to make the chart bigger. Like, that's kind of crazy. Not too far behind it, your usual suspects. You got Colorado Springs. Well, actually, Sioux Falls is kind of weird. Austin, Texas. Raleigh, North Carolina. Lakeland, Florida. Fort Myers. Salt Lake City. Port St. Lucie. Phoenix, Arizona. Seattle, Washington. Nashville, Tennessee, Boise, Idaho, Charleston, South Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida. You guys get the drill. Who we expect is in this box. But even other areas of Florida, such as Miami, Tampa, Palm Beach, they are also going over their previous supply highs. They do feel that these will get filled. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but we'll see. Now they also break these down into tiers. Tier 1 is big supply. These are markets adding a ton of supply and mostly places blistering past their previous peaks. Austin, Raleigh, Salt Lake City, Nashville, Charlotte, Phoenix, and Denver and Jacksonville are pretty close too, they say. Now, they do note that these are markets that historically have had little trouble absorbing big supply and will likely continue to see massive demand, yet will likely get challenged in the short term. They'll lease up, but slower than most developers want to see. They are way more concerned about the smaller markets, such as Huntsville, which they say, wow, like I mentioned, we had to adjust the y-axis just to fit it. The other boom towns they're including are Colorado Springs, Sioux Falls, Port St. Lucie, Lakeland, Fort Myers, Provo, Boise, Asheville, Charleston, Savannah, Myrtle Beach, and Pensacola. These are all great spots long-term, they say, but short-term could get tough for operators and developers. I'll tell you what, Colorado Springs might jump here soon because another state coming in hot on Airbnb. Looks like short-term rental owners show up in force to oppose Colorado lawmakers' plan to tax their homes at a much higher rate. Now, they've tried this multiple times in Colorado, but I think it's finally going to start to catch on because it's just spreading like wildfire across the country. This legislation would roughly quadruple property taxes for tens of thousands of short-term rental homes in Colorado. That would be the end of it. It'd be over. They're going to sell. Done. It's either going to go to annual rentals if they can still make money, or they're going to flood that market with short-term rental homes that are no longer viable. That would jump the local property tax assessment rate on these from 6.765% to 27.9%. That's going to do you in, guys. You can't sustain that. If you own it cash, switch it to annual, maybe it still works out. Opposers came out in full force. As you can see here, we had one member say, we need to have this home available to short-term rental guests to pass this legacy on to our kids, said Eric Richards, who introduced his two kids, ages 10 and 12, to the committee. That is wild, guys. Please think of the kids. Think of my kids. How will I pass these short-term rentals? My kids need this VRBO to survive. Like, maybe it's not funny. I don't know. That's just weird. That's weird. What are you bringing your kids? Like, what about the people who live in the town whose kids have no place to live because you've eaten up all the supply of housing with short-term rentals? It's so crazy. I don't know. This world is nuts. So, guys, I mean, we'll see how that turns out. But, God, these Airbnb, these short-term rental restrictions are spreading so fast. I could not have seen this coming. I mean, they're coming for landlords. They're coming for hosts. They're coming for realtors. Just the housing markets, they're coming for everybody. Like, I mean, I'm in the crossfire too. But, geez, this is wild. Here's that supply and demand again, guys. There's a direct relationship between supply levels and rent movements. Rents are already falling across all asset classes in the highest supplied areas and probably will continue to decline into 2024. I'm not going to cover the entire article, guys, but I'll jump down to tier 5, the minimal supply markets, really quickly. It's interesting how they start this off by saying supply is pretty much everywhere, but there are small numbers of exceptions. And some of them are also low demand markets, so that minimizes the upside. That includes New Orleans, San Francisco, and Cleveland. Even New York City's peak expansion rate, sitting at 1.4%, is among the nation's lowest, so they're going to stay pretty tight. So some of these concerns are getting to investors as multifamily permitting and starts drop further, and they have been sliding throughout the year. You guys know we're at a 50-year high, but they have been pulling back. So as you guys can see here, multifamily permitting for September was down 14% from August's annual rate. However, the multifamily starts were up 17% in September compared to the unusually low annualized rate for August. That's all I got for today, guys. Give me a like, share, subscribe if you like this content, and let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll see you next time.